Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
In the New York Herald, there is an account of the hanging of 3 men. They died for the murder of Sir Edmund William Godfrey, resident of Greenberry Hill, London. He was murdered by 3 vagrants whose motive was simple robbery. They were identified as Joseph Green, Stanley Berry, and Daniel Hill. Green, Berry, Hill.
Hello and welcome back to the Monday Movie Show, DVD and Blu-ray section. Coming up in the show we have the DVD and Blu-ray top 10 and reviews of
a lot of big films this week. We have The Amazing Spider-Man, we have stripper drama Magic Mike. Can Seth MacFarlane really do a really big screen film with Ted, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dog Days? We have animated film from Disney Pixar, Brave, Sound of My Voice, and this week's DVD alternative is Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Yep, before that, let's go straight into the DVD and Blu-ray top 10, starting at number 10 with Men in Black 3.
Yeah, if you listen to the cinema part of the show, we said that we wanted the Paranormal Activity series to finish. This is another series that it's gone past its sell-by date. If you were finding it in a shop, it would be beyond the bargain bin, because it's a lackluster film. It's very average at best. There's just nothing that sort of like attracts you to the film. It's a very safe kind of film, but with a series like this, you expect much more.
Number 9 is Mrs. Brown's Boys Series 2.
Please stop buying it. Please stop watching it.
Number 8 is Ice Age: A Mammoth Christmas.
Yeah, this is the first of 2 films in the top 10 that is one of those ones where you find it for £5 at a supermarket. In this case, it's Tesco's with the Ice Age series. It's beside the till. It sells for £5. It's on for 25 minutes. It keeps your kids entertained for that, and I think parents are just buying it for stocking fillers. Making
a re-entry at number 7 is Nativity.
Yeah, the only reason why it's in the chart is because Nativity 2 is out in the cinemas. From what I know, I have not seen Nativity. I have not watched it at all. It's supposed to be a light-hearted film where everything is not scripted. It's done free, so they can do whatever they want practically. They've got the basic premise of what the story's going to be, but then they make up most of their own lines. And it looks a very kid-friendly film, but it looked like it will get right on my nerves.
Number 6 is Coldplay Live 2012.
I'm not a fan of these. I think they're a whiny bunch of a-holes. I'm not a fan of Coldplay. I just don't like their music.
I like Coldplay. I quite like Coldplay. Number 5 is Dr. Seuss The Lorax.
Yeah, it should not be called Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, because The Lorax only features in the film for about 10-15 minutes, considering that it is based around the character of The Lorax. He's not in it that much. The film, it's colourful, it's pretty to look at, it's just that's it. It doesn't have very much going for it. The best thing about it is the little sort of like characters that you would expect in these kind of films, the little funny fish and animals and stuff, but it's just a bit of a boring film, to be honest.
Number 4 is Poe's Winter Wonderland.
Yeah, this is based on Kung Fu Panda, and this is Sainsbury's movie for £5 that you find at the till, so I'm surprised that Asda doesn't have one. I think this one's selling better than the Ice Age film, and like I said, I think parents are buying it for stocking fillers.
Number 3 is Michael McIntyre's Showtime.
I like Michael McIntyre. I've seen him 3 times live. I find him funny myself. I've not seen this one yet. I will watch it. So I can't comment on it, but I do like Michael McIntyre.
Number 2 is Mrs. Brown's live tour. Good morning.
Yeah, in the live chat, Ewan Cassidy, you said he likes Mrs. Brown's Boys, and I think you said that last week as well when we mentioned Mrs. Brown's Boys. Each to their own. A lot of people seems to like Mrs. Brown's Boys. It seems to do good business for the BBC. The BBC seem to get decent ratings for it, and it's based on an Irish television series that's got, I think, quite a few episodes behind its belt. So it does well for a lot of people, but it's just not our cup of tea.
And the new number 1 movie on DVD and Blu-ray is After Christmas,
which for an animated film out of Christmas, it's not too bad. It's an okay film. I think what you should do is, instead of buying films like this at Christmas for your children, go out and buy some classic films like the Home Alone series, things like that. Movies where they do embodied Christmas, but they're much more entertaining. This is decent, but it's just decent, and coming from a studio like Aardman, which is known for their brilliant animation, their witty stuff. I've not seen Pirates and Adventure with Scientists yet. I've not seen that yet, so I can't comment on that one. But I love the Wallace and Gromit series. They are really good series, but it's just a very normal, sort of like bog standard movie. It's okay, it's pretty to look at times, but a lot of the scenes feel empty, and for a Christmas film, you don't want that. And
there you have it. Sorry?
Ewan said he hates Home Alone. How dare you? How dare you hate Home Alone?
Yeah, that is one of those Christmas films that you have to watch every year. Come on.
3 and 4, you can see that you hate Home Alone.
Yeah, not the other, not 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are genuinely funny films.
Yeah,
there you have it, though. Our DVD and Blu-ray top 10. So let's get moving on with our reviews, since we've got a bunch of them to go through. The Amazing Spider-Man, the biggest movie of the week on DVD.
Questionable.
It's a reboot of the series, directed by Mark Webb, and I'm not making that up. It's the whole thing of the origins of Peter Parker becoming Spider-Man. This time played by Andrew Garfield, while he's at school, and something then happens where he is then bitten by a radioactive spider that then results in him developing powers and the ability to walk on walls and ceilings, and his spidey sense, and the whole thing of he then starts building web slingers, which is a new thing from the original comics. Does that, whereas in the Sam Raimi movies, they made it so it was actually the web slingers were actually part of his arm. They came with it. So this is going more back to the original origins of the character and the origins of the history. The whole thing is then sort of about him having parent issues with his mom and dad, having left him with his aunt and uncle, and years earlier left him after a mysterious going on at the start of the film. He's then left with the issue of that he finds this briefcase which has got a picture of his dad with a man who turns out to be Kurt Connors, a man who works in New York, and is actually a man who's working on a interesting new way of being able to cure people, considering that he has lost one of his arms. Here's a clip.
I long to fix myself. I want to create a world without weakness. Anyone care to venture a guess just how? Yes.
Stem cells?
Promising, but the solution I'm thinking of is more radical. No one?
Cross-species genetics. Person gets Parkinson's when the brain cells that produce dopamine start to disappear. But a zebrafish has the ability to regenerate cells on command. If you could somehow give this ability to the woman you're talking about, that's that. She's curing herself.
Yeah, you just have to look past the gills on her neck.
And you are?
He's one of Midtown Science's best and brightest.
Really?
He's second in his class.
Oh.
Second?
Yeah.
You sure about that?
I'm pretty sure.
So then after Peter's involvement with Connors, he ends up giving him a formula which his father had kept secret, which then allows Connors to use a formula on himself, which unfortunately has a side effect of growing back his arm, but also turning him into the Lizard. Now, the thing is that with The Amazing Spider-Man, it's not been long since the Sam Raimi's original 3 movies. It's basically been that it's under license from Marvel to Sony, who had so long to make a film. Otherwise, the rights would just go back to Marvel, and Sony would lose the rights of it. So they decided that after the third movie that Raimi did, when it was a bit of a failure, to not go on with that franchise and instead reboot the franchise. And here's the thing with it, though. I liked the Sam Raimi ones, but I really love this one. I really do love this one. It's much more faithful to the character. The whole thing of you have Andrew Garfield, who looks so much more like what I expect Spider-Man to be than Tobey Maguire. The way that he moves and with the web slinging is just much more realistic and works for me so much more than any of Raimi's films. You have in there Emma Stone, who plays Gwen Stacy, who, if you know the comics, she is the girlfriend of Peter Parker before he eventually ends up with Mary Jane. So the whole thing of that character from the origins a lot more just works in it so much more. And you've got in there as well, you've got a great couple of actors with Sally Field playing Aunt May and Martin Sheen playing Uncle Ben. And you do get the whole thing of the Uncle Ben issue again, which happens in the other movies, and it's not obviously going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be very similar. So if you are into the Spider-Man character, I think that you'll find that this is a really good adaptation, and you'll really enjoy it. You may not love it as much as I do, but I think that anyone who's been into the comics and knows the character will like it more than Raimi's movies.
Yeah, I liked the first Spider-Man film. I didn't like number 2. I absolutely hated number 3. This is a step in the right direction for the series, because I think what Mark Webb has done is, like you said, he stuck more to the comic books and the more feel of Spider-Man. It didn't feel as sort of like camp, because I felt like Raimi's films were a bit camp for the series. In a way, it's sort of like the way the Batman series has gone. As the way Tim Burton did it, it sort of like had a dark kind of feel, and then it went just majorly downhill into sort of like camp territory, and then it was brought back to life by Nolan. This has sort of been the same with what Webb has done with the film. That's not to say I really like the film. I thought it's a very average movie. It suffers the same kind of problems that I find a lot of superhero movies suffer from. The fact that they spend too much time on the character and building up a few set pieces, and then there's only a couple of set pieces, and they, in my eyes, they end up being very disappointing. The Lizard also is just a terrible... I didn't think Rhys Ifans as the Lizard was really good. I thought it was a really bog-standard, basic bad guy. It's just a bit boring for me, and the movie is very average, but it's a good step in the right direction for the series. I hold hope for the second film, and hopefully, instead of them spending too much time with character development, etc., they'll actually bring something more to the forefront.
So I'm curious to see what you're going to make of this next one, because you haven't told me what you've made of it yet.
Nope, Magic Mike. Now, Magic Mike is directed by Steven Soderbergh. If you know the way Steven Soderbergh directs his films, he's one of these directors who he gets a lot of actors to star in the film, and they might get 10, 15 minutes of screen time if they're lucky. And he thinks that makes a film, when in fact it doesn't. It makes it a mess. And as of late, since Soderbergh has turned around and said that he's no longer going to direct any films, even though he keeps directing the movie, he's sort of like reined in that a little bit. He's decided to... He does have a few actors in the film, but he's started to rein it in a little bit. And this is the case with Magic Mike. It stars Channing Tatum as Mike in the lead role, and Channing's character is sort of like the typical Lothario kind of character. He sleeps with women. He's sort of like, he's business. He's got a hand in multiple businesses, tiling, and he's also a stripper. One day, a guy is brought onto his tiling site, played by Alex Pettifer. He plays Adam, and he's just useless. Everything he does, he sort of like quits the job within a day, or he's kicked out of the job, and he's useless at what he does. And it's a miracle that he's got this, because there is a scene near to the start of the film where Mike has asked him, how did you get the job? And he said, off Craigslist. So he just got it off online, and he managed to get the job that way. Adam bumps into Mike one night, discovers that in a really strange way that Mike is in fact a stripper. His night job, his main job, where he gets a lot of money in, is he's a stripper. And Adam sort of like sees that world, and Mike gets him into this world and tutors him with the help of Matthew McConaughey's character Dallas, who runs this huge, massive strip joint, along with Channing Tatum's character Mike. Here's a clip.
You're not just stripping. You are fulfilling every woman's wildest fantasies. Right? You are the husband that they never had. You are that dreamboat guy that never came along. You are the one-night stand, that free fling of a that they get to have tonight with you on stage and still go home to their hubby and not get in trouble because you, baby, you made it legal. You are the liberation. Own it.
And the first time when Adam's brought on stage, he does a decent job of it, but Dallas is not very impressed with it, so obviously he tries to train him up, and you heard in that clip there how he manages to do that. And Adam is sort of like really ecstatic because he lives with his sister, but he's starting to bring in more money now, and he thinks he has much more of a structured life. However, he makes a stupid mistake, a stupid decision, which sort of like brings him back to the area where he was at, and he has to be bailed out by Mike, who both of them have become real good friends. Now, I was a bit bewildered why Andy went to see this at the cinema, considering that my guess he would have been in a screening full of women, considering that this movie is mainly for women. It is a stripper film, and a lot of the film is taken up by seeing men taking their clothes off, which is sort of like a put-off for me. Put-off for a lot of people, depending on your orientation, but it is sort of like a put-off. It's done tastefully. There isn't anything graphic about the stripping, so it's done tastefully. And the way I have to admit that Channing Tatum, he can move. He's a really good dancer. He has some really good dance moves in there. There is one time when he does strip in the film, and he doesn't take that much of his clothes off, but he is dancing fantastically, so he must have gone through a lot of training to do that. Alex Pettyfer, I know you were a bit lenient on him, Andy, when you reviewed this film, but I think he was a bit boring. I thought
it was the first time I've seen him in a film where I didn't find him just an annoyance and a distraction for the whole film.
That is true, because I can't remember, he was in a British horror film, Alex Pettyfer, and I can't remember the name of it. And
he's one of these actors who I always keep wondering, every time I see him in something, I'm like, how is he still working? Really? How is he still working?
And that was my thought at the end of this film, how is he still working? Because he wasn't that good. The best thing about this film, in my opinion, is Matthew McConaughey, because he is sort of like on top, like arrogant kind of cheesy form, and he's really good in this film. Channing Tatum, I call him a potato because he does still look like a potato, but I had to get that in. I haven't said that for quite a while. Channing Tatum is fine. He's okay. There's nothing wrong with him in this film, but Matthew McConaughey carries the movie. He is the best thing about this film, and for me, it's a good direction the way Soderbergh treated the movie instead of peppering it with a lot of actors. It just, between the scenes of the strip, and it just felt like a standard, ordinary film, and the film itself is just, it's average. It's an ordinary, normal kind of average movie with a bit of stripping in it. It's an up tempo. I can't remember the name of the British stripping movie. Full Monty. It's an up tempo Full Monty. It's an American take on it.
Okay, I'm interested in that. Your response to that, I thought you were just going to hate it altogether.
No, watch the Full Monty instead, because that's a much more better film.
Oh, I don't know about that.
It is.
Let's go on to Ted, which is the first movie from Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane. It's a comedy about a guy played by Mark Wahlberg who, as a kid, makes a wish at Christmas for his teddy bear that he's been given to come to life. Lo and behold, the next morning, he wakes up, the teddy bear's nowhere to be seen, and when he finds him in the room, the teddy bear's actually alive and walking around and talking, and it's one of these things that then it's all in the media about it, a teddy bear that's come to life and is a real life thing. Cut to 20 or so years later, the whole world has just accepted Ted for being who he is. He's just walking around as normal with Mark Wahlberg's character. His character is going out with Laurie, played by Mila Kunis, who is then
Mila
Kunis.
Yeah.
Oh, whichever one. I don't care.
Potato, and all that crap.
The two of them are then sort of moving in together, but also the problem of the two of them moving together and Ted is living with them. She finds Ted is then sort of getting in the way of things. She wants him to sort of grow up a bit and Ted to move out. And he finally does sort of speak to him about that, sorts it out for Ted to go out. But then the thing is that Ted and him are such good friends that their friendship is essentially going to ruin his relationship with Laurie. The whole thing of it is all sort of the story of them and their friendship and his relationship with Laurie, while at the same time there is this weird character played by Giovanni Ribisi who wants to get Ted for his son as a present. Here's a clip.
I met a girl. She's a cashier.
No way, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, what's her name?
White trash name. Guess.
Mandy.
Nope.
Marilyn.
Nope.
Brittany.
Nope.
Tiffany.
Nope.
Candace. All right, speed round. I'm going to rattle off some names, and when I hit it, buzz it, okay?
I will tell you.
You got me?
Yeah.
All right, Brandy, Heather, Channing, Brianna, Amber, Sabrina, Melody, Dakota, Sierra, Bambi, Crystal, Samantha, Autumn, Ruby, Taylor, Tara, Tammy, Lauren, Charlene, Chantel, Courtney, Misty, Jenny, Krista, Mindy, Noelle, Shelby, Trina, Reba, Cassandra, Nikki, Kelsey, Shauna, Jolene, Erling, Claudine, Savannah, Casey, Dolly, Kendra, Kylie, Chloe, Devin, Emma, Luke, Becky?
Nope.
Wait, was it any one of those names with a Lynn after it?
Yes.
I got you. Okay. Brandy Lynn, Heather Lynn,
Tammy Lynn.
Ah!
So here's the thing with Ted. I saw this originally at the cinema, in a packed cinema. It was completely filled out. And the thing is, that is the best way to see this film. To see this with as many people as you can together, because it is a riot. It is without a doubt the funniest film that I've seen in a few years. It will be in my top 10 films of the year, because of the fact that there's not been anything this funny. And there's shocking moments in it, but there's not an abundance of shocking moments in it. There are just genuinely funny moments between these characters, and this whole thing of the ridiculousness of a bear walking around normal being a person. The thing is, I seriously just laughed my head off during this film. It's brilliantly written. Seth MacFarlane has proved that he can not only do television, he can also do big films now, and the jokes in this are far above anything you've seen in a comedy for at least the last 3 years of a comedy. It's just brilliant. If you haven't seen this, then I definitely recommend you get this now. It's so I can't say it anymore. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, you know me, I sort of like, in a way, you might as well say hate comedies. A lot of these movies that deem themselves to be comedies, I watch them and think, really? Are you sure about that? Prior to watching Ted, the funniest film I saw this year was 21 Jump Street. I thought that was really funny. Then I went to see Ted, and I think I laughed more times in the first 15 minutes with Ted than I laughed in the entirety of 21 Jump Street. And the other thing to say about Ted is that it's not just down to the comedy that makes it a really good film. There is heart in this movie as well. You actually want to follow this couple between Mila Kunis and Mark Wahlberg, and Ted in there is just the sort of like the big massive cherry on the absolute gorgeous cake. It's a funny film, highly recommended by me as well, and I'm not a comedy fan, but definitely recommend that. And Seth MacFarlane to me is a god.
Yeah,
I love him.
It's just genius. I guess there'll be some people who won't like it as much because they don't like his type of humour, but because it's very similar to Family Guy. But it's just absolute genius, the comedy, some things he comes out with, and they're so brilliantly spot on.
Oh yeah. Now, that cannot be said about this next film, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dog Days. Now, it's directed by David Bowers. It's the third in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series, and he's directed each one of them. And it stars Zachary Gordon as Greg, who's sort of like the lead character in each one of the films, along with his brother, Roderick, who's played by Devin Bostick. Now, the thing with this film is it has a very simple storyline. Roderick and Greg have finished school. Greg has only got 1 week left. He's very excited to get out of school. He has you might as well say, not a lot of plans for the summer. All he wants to do is just sit indoors and play video games a lot. When school ends, he wants to get his yearbook signed by a girl who he really likes. He doesn't manage to do this. He then gets home. He's able to play computer games because he comes up with an idea where he can fit it around his father, who's played by Steve Zahn, and his mother, played by Rachel Harris, who just potters around the house all day, and his father goes off to do his jobs, and he thinks that he can time the way his father comes back so he can go out and play, and he thinks that he's actually gone out and played, and he's a clip.
Have you ever been on this ride? It's way scary. Well, my brother knows a guy whose second cousin's half-brother went on this ride and got decapitated. No way.
It's true. I was working the ride that day. The car came down, and his head wasn't in it. You guys get to the top, make sure not to rock the car back and forth. That's how.
Greg, in case we don't make it, there's something I have to tell you. One time, I went to the bathroom, and I didn't wash my hands.
One time, I used your toothbrush to get dog poop off my shoe.
Wait, what?
So that's sort of like an indication of what the film is sort of like, because he's got a friend anyway, Greg, and Rowley's this goody two-shoes whose his idea of being told off is when his parents say that he's disappointed in him. That's when he thinks that he's been majorly told off. And honestly, I don't know why these movies get made, because all the jokes in this film, if you can count them as being jokes, they are an exact carbon copy of the jokes in the second film, and I didn't find the second film funny at all. It's not aimed at my age group. It's aimed at, I would say, between the 8 and 14 market, because there are a few jokes in that in the film that they might get more so than me, but I just didn't find the film funny at all. And why would you rehash jokes that didn't work in the first film again in the second film, again in the third film? This series is much more stale than the Paranormal Activity series. Honestly, I do not want to see another Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie at all. I don't think that this series translates very well over in this country. I think the series works okay in America, but in the UK, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series just does not work, because none of the humour is funny. The movie themselves is just they're not funny at all, and there are much more better films out there for kids than this movie. So stop going to see them. Do not buy this on DVD at all. Just stop giving them a reason to make another one.
Brave, which is the latest Pixar animation with Disney, it's a movie that's following a sort of medieval times family led by the main character of Merida, who is the princess of this castle in Scotland. Her father, who's Fergus, is voiced by Billy Connolly. Her mother, Eleanor, is voiced by Emma Thompson. She has this whole thing of her mother wants to have her married off to other clans, and they have a sort of a competition between these other clans to try and win the hand of Merida, who doesn't want to be married off, who wants to be her own person, and goes to actually find a spell when she actually sort of encounters something in the forest and bumps into this witch who gives her a spell which will then let her change her fate by having an effect on her mother. The whole thing is about this sort of relationship between her and her mother. As I say, you've also got in there Billy Connolly, who's playing the father of the family, and the whole thing of them sort of as just an example of them at one point when they're all sitting down to dinner, and he's telling one of his most well-known stories. Here's a clip.
Then, out of nowhere, the biggest bear you've ever seen, his hide littered with the weapons of fallen warriors, his face scarred with one dead eye. I drew my sword and...
Which one swipe, his sword shattered, then chomp! Dad's leg was clean off. Down the monster's throat it went.
Oh, that's my favourite part.
Mordo has never been seen since. and is roaming the wilds, waiting his chance of revenge.
Let him return. I'll finish what I guddled in the first place.
Merida, a princess does not place her weapons on the table.
Mom!
So you have this whole thing of that then she gives this spell to her mother, which then results in her mother changing into something else. And it's all sort of the whole thing of her and her mother trying to figure out what's going on so she can undo the spell before it becomes permanent. The thing with Brave is that it's really nicely animated. There's some really great bits of animation in there. But unfortunately, it doesn't quite work as it's intended to. The thing that you hear as well, a lot of mothers and daughters who watch the film get a lot more out of it than other people do for some reason. It seems to be the whole thing of it being a mother and daughter in the story is what is helping people watching it who is a mother or a daughter that are watching it, especially together, that they get much more out of it. For me, I mean, it was perfectly fine. It's just it's below Pixar's animation standards. It should be a lot better film. It should be a lot more fun. There are moments in it where it is nicely done. There's this whole thing of you have the father and the group of the other clans are sort of chasing around the castle looking for Merida and her mother, and sort of the humour of that. You've got the three sort of triplet brothers of Merida's who never say anything in the whole film but are brilliantly animated, and they're just little rascals that are funny throughout. But it's disappointing as a Pixar animation. It should be more. There should be more to it. It had problems during direction that the director Brenda Chapman was essentially fired from it, and she's been given a co-directing title with Mark Andrews, who was brought in to replace her. But it shows signs of there being a problem. How it would have been different if she'd just been left to do it on her own, I guess we'll never know. But it's okay, but I wanted more from it.
Yeah, and calling a Disney Pixar film an okay movie, that's sort of, you might as well say it's sort of like bad if you're calling a Disney Pixar film an okay film. The thing is, though, their movies will do brilliant box office no matter what, because this was, if I remember correctly, the 13th consecutive #1 for Disney and Pixar. So that's insane. No matter what, even Cars 2 went to #1, which is stupid considering that Cars 2, I think, is one of the weakest Disney Pixar films. No, actually, it is their weakest one.
I don't.
I don't like Cars 2. I actually like this more so than Cars 2, but it's still just average. Disney and Pixar, they've lost their way a little bit. They did something brilliant with Up, and then they went downhill from then on in, and they've not been able to sort of like go up to that level as of late. There seems to be a problem in Pixar, and they need to try and find this problem and rectify it and move on, rather than doing movies like this. It's a strange film from Pixar, and it's not to say it's a bad film, because it's not. There are elements of the movie which is done really well, and the animation is gorgeous at times. It just doesn't feel like a Disney Pixar movie from when they were at their brilliant best. Right, final film of the night, Sound of My Voice. It's directed by Zal Batmanglij. I got the worst name to say tonight. It stars Christopher Denham, who plays Pete Aitken, and Nicola Vicious, who plays Lorna. They are a couple. They are journalists who decide to infiltrate this sort of like cult, which is led by Brit Marlin, who plays Maggie. Now, she's supposedly a person who's come from the future, from 2060, saying that she is going to get this group together to take them to the future, prepare them so she can take them to the future. And this couple, played by, like I said, Christopher Denham and Nicholas Vicious, they infiltrate this cult to try and find out exactly what she's on about and what she's up to, because they suspect that what she's doing is fake. And it could be fake, or it could not be fake, considering that what she asks them to do during the meetings, she asks them to shower so they don't have any dirt on them whatsoever, take off every kind of bit of dirt off their clothes, everything in the area where she is, it's got to be clean. She never comes out of the area where she is. Fruit, she doesn't believe in eating fruit that's grown at all. She will only eat food that's been properly prepared. The seeds taken out of apples and the apple have been completely clean. She will not eat food from people. And she dictates the way these people who are in this cult live their life. If she doesn't think that they've done something to her standards, she will instantly throw you out of this cult. And these people believe that she's there to take them to the future. The movie itself, it's a very strange film. It's only on for 80 minutes. It's a very short film, but it just doesn't feel like anything happens in the movie. Even though there are interesting conversations between the characters, it just feels like nothing happens. It culminates into something interesting where you think that if it is true what she's saying, what Maggie is actually saying, then it might have been interesting. And it's sort of like the last 15 minutes of the film sort of like culminates into what goes on, but it's just a bit loose, and the film, it just doesn't have any flow to it whatsoever. It's sort of like, you might as well class it as more of an experiment from the director rather than a movie. It would have worked much better if it was a short film rather than an 80-minute film, and at 80 minutes it might feel short, but it would have worked if it was 20 minutes. Because then it would have been an experiment to find out if the idea would have worked. But I don't think it does. Even though I think Brit Marlin, who plays Maggie, is really good in the film.
Yeah, Brit Marlin's been... she's working a lot on her own projects, writing things, as well as starring in them as well. I mean, she did Another Earth, which was an interesting yet weird drama as well.
Yeah.
The alternate for this week is Searching for Bobby Fischer, which is a film from 1993, so we're getting on a bit now. This is about almost 20 years ago. It stars Max Pomerak as a kid called Josh Waitskin, who he's sort of just living his everyday normal life. His parents see him as just being normal and everything. But then he starts to show signs of being some kind of a prodigy in the game of chess, where he starts to be able to play it and at a great level, starts to then get into the tournaments and such. And the whole thing is focusing on the whole story of him and his parents, and the question of how parents should push or not push their child to be something else or to be in something that they're not. It's a really good drama. It's a film that I first saw back years ago. I didn't see it when it came out, but I saw it years ago, and it just really stuck with me after all this time, that it's a great drama, and about the relationship between kids and their parents, and the whole thing of the parents pushing their kids. You've got his father, who's played by Joe Mantegna.
I haven't a clue.
The guy, he's in Criminal Minds now, the TV series Criminal Minds, but he's brilliant in this as well. And you've got Joan Allen plays his mother as well, and then you have a tutor who is brought in, played by the brilliant Ben Kingsley, as well as Lawrence Fishburne playing a guy who is a kind of like a park street hustler who plays chess in the park for money, and these two different sort of opposing styles of chess playing, training him up, and him sort of having to decide which one he wants to be with, which one he wants to get into. It's a really good drama, so I'd say check it out if you can get hold of it, because I don't think it's particularly easy to get hold of now. That's it for this week's show. Thank you for listening to us if you have been live, or if you're listening to us on the Spreaker website playing back later, or iTunes, for example, or YouTube. You can find us on Facebook if you just search Monday Movie Show. You find us also on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. You also got our website, which please feel free to check that out, www.mondaymovieshow.co.uk. And feel free to check out a good friend of ours who has their own show on Thursday nights, followingthenerd.com, who their show goes out from 9 to 11 on Thursday nights. So I've been Andrew.
Who's EHDVD on Twitter.
And you've been?
I'm Cryptic Tadpole on Twitter, at Cryptic Tadpole. And my movie of the week, by the way, is Ted.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing, Ted. So this is really quite scary. We're both agreeing on something again. Ted is the movie of the week, without a doubt. I mean, I love, as much as I love The Amazing Spider-Man, Ted is just a brilliant comedy. You've got to see it.
Yeah, go out and buy Ted.
So until next Monday night, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again then.
Bye.